recording. All right. Officially, good morning. Welcome out to the Market Watch Group. Wednesday, Market Midpoint. My name is Scott. I'll be your host. As always, our services are for education illustrative purposes only, not intended to be a recommendation to buy or sell any financial security or product. We're not brokers. We're not advisors. Yada, yada. What are we doing today? Today we are going to look at the, again, opening analysis. Look at the futures. Look at the news. We know we're waiting on 2 p.m. Eastern. Actually, more 2:30. 2 p.m. is the announcement. The announcement is going to be unchanged, obviously. Although, wouldn't it be interesting if we got a Greenspan-esque surprise? Although this surprise would not be a good surprise, I think. Here's where Greenspan would be like, I'm going to knock it up a quarter of a point just to send a message. Greenspan was not one likely to succumb to political pressure. He would not lose a staring contest. Sorry. 99-1 against a raise. Okay. Yeah, I was going to look at that. Revisit market posture. What do we think? As I said, there's no... we did have a sell day, but not with volume. That's continuing to slow maybe that volume score down. Mindset for open trades. We have a couple of things we'll look at. Opportunity list. We had a few bulls and bears both ways, but it looks like the bears are setting up better. And trading plan progress. We're halfway through week 1 of the loop on section 1. So let's see how we're doing. Good morning, Lee. Good to see you. All right, let's dive in. Let's just take a quick peek at the futures. A marginal positive indication. We bounce. There's day 1. There's day 2. There's yesterday, an engulfing, but on below average and below the last 2 days, right? So there's a let's get drawing tools. There's a markedly different tone between this acceleration volume, basically down to there, and then this next one. It was just not as much, right? You can kind of see that shift, that drop. And the futures are even, you can tell, sinking a little. We're in this pause now. What would our interpretation be here? Well, this could still be one move going this way. We could have gone up and flagged, and we could be breaking down this way. Or we could pull back like this, stabilize, and catch a little bit of a momentum. So there's a few things. I'm not disinclined to any of them, right? I'm going to wait and see, which is why I say balance. I either want nothing or I want a little bit of something on either side and maybe something in the middle right now. If someone sees something more convincing than I do as to directionally what we think is coming next, I'm all ears. I'm open. But here we are. Now, real quickly, let me go back to our Sunday you can see that we said we don't think it's based on how we opened on Monday. We immediately ruled out path D. That didn't happen. And path C. That didn't happen. And we said it's either A or B. Right? We definitely do not seem to be getting A. So we seem to have settled on path B. I was leaning towards the more bullish. I was maybe in the B to C range here. And we kind of seem to be right in the middle of that. We didn't quite go up 2 extra days before we started to go sideways, but we did go up, then sideways. So we're kind of at a B minus, right? We're at a B minus. And so what we said was we're going to be careful. If you can go back and play the tape, we said if B is the path, what does that mean? It means that any bullish trade we have, be careful, tighten stops. This is not a market where we're like, let's hang on and let's see if it recovers. Oh, gosh. That market was last year. This is a different market. We don't do that in this market. In this market, we say, all right, if I have something bullish on, I'm going to tighten my stops. If it starts to go against me, I'm going to close it down. And if it was in path A, we'd be feeling great. But if it's not in path A, it's path B. And it's even actually more of a B minus. And so, new bullish trades we put on, we're thinking, hey, if this thing doesn't materialize, we're done. We're going to take our loss, keep it small, and move on. Yesterday was bearish. The bullish trade did fine. Minor pullback. So we'll take a look at that. What are your thoughts on this? Do you agree path B minus is where we're at, and see what it goes from here? Was it helpful to try to visualize multiple paths at the beginning of the week and then sort of narrow them down? It's funny. It's not like I draw these out like this and cross them out, but I do I do absolutely create this type of a construct on Sunday where I'm thinking, all right, what are the possibilities? What do I think's most likely? That's the one I'm likely trading. What would I do if the other ones come? That's where I'm executing trade management strategies when necessary, right? And it just sort of orients you in a way that you feel organized and ready to, not react, but implement a proactive plan. All right, let's keep going. I thought it was fun, and I obviously love drawing. Very helpful. Thank you, Lee. Glad to hear. So here we are, right? Here we are. This is where we kind of started drawing from. So we got that first day, and now it's kind of in this sideways to veering down. So you remember, A went up like this, B kind of went like this, C was in here. So we're kind of, I guess, really, actually, C was sideways from here. So that's why I said B minus. We're kind of in between those two right there, right? Yeah. Okay. That makes sense to me. I sometimes feel like I gain clarity just as I talk about it, and then it clicks and it sinks, and I'm like, yes to me too. Thanks, Kami. Good to see you. Okay. Let's go back and look at some of our pre-market news. We know the futures are marginally up, 0.2 on the S&P, 0.08 on the Dow, 0.29 on the NASDAQ, and 0.08 on the Russell. Sideways will dominate at least this week. So looking for path B minus to just kind of continue, possibly even the seller. I mean, sideways, here's the deal. I agree with you. If you didn't see Kami's comment, it said that looking sideways will dominate at least this week. Sideways in a market with a posture that's deteriorated the way that it has, with increased volatility. Sideways, we have to be like the sellers, right? The lawnmower could turn at any minute. That's as blades of grass. We're looking around like that lawnmower could just turn without even a hint of a notion that we can see it, right? So I think that's kind of where we stand. What do we know? We want new clarity from the Fed and Powell. I'm sorry. I feel like that ask for clarity should be directed at a different branch of the government, perhaps. I feel like the Fed's ambiguity is created and caused by some other form of chaos that we have, a lack of. Anyways, I get it. I think that the Fed's going to maybe lay it down. You're kind of seeing it too, right? You see the Supreme Court head come out and say, "Oh, we don't talk about impeaching judges." Admonishments are starting to come, right? Like last administration, there were internal rails that there don't seem to be. now the rails are having to come externally. So I'm wondering, does the Fed come out and say, yeah, there's no way we're going to cut rates with the threat of tariffs looming or something, right? Where there's just like they take a stand, and that's the clarity, right? That's the make a Greenspan OG kind of move and just lay it down. Be like, yeah, there's no way we touch these rates with tariffs in place or the threat of tariffs in place. Bam. Right? That's it. Bob Walker agrees. I might send Jer Bear a text. It's been a little while since I've texted him. I mean, I think we're still friends, maybe. I don't know. But maybe he just ignores them all. I'm going to send him a text and give him some advice for today. Investors will be watching its dot plot closely. What else do we know? Edge higher, waiting for Fed updates. I think we're going to just sort of meander today, waiting for this. Tesla jumps as Lutnick's Cantor upgrade stock to a buy. We'll go see it. We'll see if we're convinced or if we think it's a bear suck out. NVIDIA CEO says company plans to build giant AI factories. Yeah, giant AI factories is code for our new government operations center for when our AI overlords take control. You know, I'm excited to hear about that. Mortgage rates are up. Yeah. Is Steven here? Me and Steven both were hoping that they might come down. Nope. All right. I don't see anything else in the news. Let's take a look at the economic calendar. What do we know? It's a funny thing. Just this today, right? Just FOMC. Just sitting, waiting, anticipating. Tomorrow, jobless claims still expected in the low 200s, 225. Not much else in there. You might think, ooh, leading economic indicators. No one really watches it or cares. And then Friday, nothing. So this is it. Whatever the Fed gives us, I believe next week we have. I thought there was some. Oh, there it is. Yeah, I thought there was some inflation. Next week is pretty loaded. We've got a big consumer confidence number. We have GDP revised for Q4, which is not that important, right? It's looking at the Q1 forward look that we're going to be paying attention to, I think. And then Friday, we have income, spending, and PCE. So, and a minor consumer sentiment report. All right, let's go look at what's cracking. Let's shift. Markets opened for 2 minutes now. Let us shift to the SPY. And take a peek at the opening range as it. Yeah. Oh, see, there you go. You can see the difference there. Here, we just sort of gapped up into yesterday, and then we're just kind of sitting, right? Which you can kind of see our stochastics maybe pinching here. We flirted with the 200 from the underside. Didn't like it on that first day, right? They immediately retreated from that. We might go try and touch that again, but if we can't get through there, this is where, for me, like I said, if you're bearish, what are we waiting for? Waiting for the buyers to try and fail. They try, they fail. If they try and they succeed, then we're thinking, wait, well, maybe that just broke our consolidation. Even if they try and succeed, I'll probably still put, based on my current market posture, even if we had gotten a little more bullish than this, I'd still be putting a few bearish positions on, simply because we know that's just the tone and the tenor of the market right now. So yeah, when you think about our posture and where we're at, this number here feels like a correction. Last time we had a correction, we got to a minus 0.25 around this same time. The exact week that it hit that 10% mark. I'll tell you what, this one got there faster, much faster. If you want to look comparatively, what we're comparing to, this was our last correction, and that was the bottom. That right there is when our posture. So we dropped, and then we stabilized, and then it dropped, and then it fell down to there. And you'll notice at that point, what do we get? A V. And then bam. And by this point in time, by mid-November, our posture was back to a 4, and we were ready to go. But you can see that sometimes when we come out of these things, we come out like a rocket. and so what do you want to do? You want to be thinking, do I participate near the lows, knowing that they might not be the lows to catch some, or do I develop some sort of a continuation model where I can come in late, ride it, and move my stops? We'll talk about both when the time comes. However, we did not get a V. There's no V here. Does that mean this is not the bottom? No, that doesn't mean that. It just means it didn't V bottom. We could certainly, end up meandering through a different type of reversal process. Let me give you another example. That was not quite a correction, but it was pretty close. I think we got A, and neither was this one. I don't think either of those were corrections. I think this one here was about like 7 or 8%, and this one was 9.5. It was pretty much a correction. So I want you, when you hear people come out and they're like, oh, corrections come all the time, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, they do, but in such different forms. That was an actual correction, and that took quite a bit of time. And then you had these quick ones that weren't quite, and this one again is, and this was a quick one. Now, none of those turned into anything worse, but do corrections sometimes turn into bear markets? Yeah, of course they do. Is that what we're forecasting? No, not yet. Hoping not. Bear markets are harder to trade than bull markets for sure. But here we sit. Now, what would I say that what we have, if it's going to be a reversal of these, what does it look more like? Looks like this one. If it's going to do it, where it popped up and then came back down a little bit, but then it did turn. Which is why I'm saying if this thing comes down and then turns, certainly we're going to put some bull trades on in that situation there. If that happens, if and when. But if this thing rolls, do I think, hey, we might end up back in the consolidation and heading further? Yeah. Based on the environment that we have, certainly. But it is good to kind of go back and just reflect what does it look like when we correct, and how do we behave? How do we come out of these things that we need to be ready for that? Okay, context. Context matters. Let's go to the watch list now. Let's take a quick peek at the opening range for a second. If I could pick the 5-minute chart. There it is. Okay, so we gapped up. And buyers pushed a little, came back, and we're just kind of watching to see. After the opening range, let's just say, if it breaks the opening range to the downside below 562, I think we're heading back down to 560. This is the next level below where this opening range is. Okay, let me get my watch list up. And AbbVie, ooh, see? Now, our stochastic still shows hope. I'm not wanting this thing basically support's down here. So if you were really giving this thing some room, you'll notice back here, it sort of went and then it paused, and then it took off. So should we look at this and be like, oh man, this thing is failing? Imagine. That's the same thing we just saw, right? Those two patterns are the beginning, and these two patterns also look pretty similar to me. Imagine if you were like, oh man, that's my second red candle in a row back there in February. And then you got out, and then you watched it go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days. Catch the move. Yeah, I want to cut my losses for sure. But do I look at this and think this is wrong? Or do I think this looks exactly like it did the last time when it worked? So I got to give it a little bit of flexibility, a little bit of room. Give me your thoughts, especially if you're in it. Nobody loves to see our trades peel back against us a little bit, but we have to make sure we keep a good perspective on what's going on. And here's the other one. This one is bearish. So now, someone said, I missed this. If you put the trade on, it gave you an opportunity to get it right in this area. Now it's probably at a worse price. But you could still work the order. You could still work, still see what you can do. What am I looking for on this one? Bearish on this one. If I'm thinking if this thing, we had this drop, pulled up a little bit, and then we had this drop, pulled up a little bit. It meandered a little, but it hasn't really shown any signs of buyers. So I'm feeling like if we make a run down and we break the 200, very good chance of at least to there. And if we really get into nasty territory because of any kind of news that comes out or whatever else, then I'm really looking back. That kind of gives you a sense of where my lines are coming from. Okay, those are the newest ones. Am I looking for more? Definitely. Let's go through. It's quiet today. How's everybody feeling? Is this making sense? Is this jiving with what you're trading? Bob says yes. Apple looks like it's bear flagging to me still. It looks like it's it looks like the buyers are just like one of those times where they're peeking their eyes around the corner and the sellers are waiting to slap them right across the eyes. Oh, goodness. We'll see what happens there. AbbVie we looked at, looking to see if it can hold on. And then how much you're willing to give it if it's showing signs that it doesn't. AEE, same kind of a thing. Started with some momentum. A pause. A pause is not wrong. A pause is just a pause. If that pause gets overwhelmed by sellers, then it's wrong. So there you go. Amazon consolidation, BABA pausing out of its bullish move. Bank of America. Oh, look at that thing. 2 week buying days. Then a tombstone doji. Oh, haven't heard that one for a little bit, probably, have you? That's a dragonfly if it comes in the bottom. That's a tombstone when it comes at the top. And now starting to maybe roll over. Oh, goodness gracious. Goodness gracious. BX. Starting to roll a little bit. Caterpillar, as I said, I was seeing that bullishly. I think this one could still try to bounce at a higher low and maybe a little industrial revolution. CIEN does not look good. Looks like it maybe could still fall of its own weight. There's CLS. CME still looks bullish, real strong. The Merck. Cisco. Sideways. Delta. Sideways. The Dow. A lot of sideways. As we said, we thought it would meander a bit today. And then maybe the Fed gives us some idea of short term, though I really think it's not. I don't think that the Fed has the ability to give the market what it needs, other than like a quick speculation and then like, oh, now what do we wait for from tariff? I mean, honestly, right? Like, it is what it is. That doesn't look great. That looks like it kind of like spiked up, came back, and now it's just floundering. Maybe our industrial revolution is not as strong as we hoped. There's Fiserv. Flex looks bearish. Struggling to get back to the other side of the 200. Fox, kind of in no man's land. GE Vernova. That looks like it wants to roll. Even if it just tested down here. That's a great trade, right? And if it breaks, even better still. That's one I'm thinking about bearishly. Gilead was one I was thinking about on this day. It didn't get high enough, you can see. If this next day it would have done something like that, I probably would have been like, yeah, there we go. A nice healthcare play. It didn't. We didn't. It dropped. Now we're like, I don't know about that. Now all of a sudden, this pullback is starting to look like this sell-off, right? At what point do we recharacterize a pullback to a sell-off? There's no line in the sand, but certainly we need to be thinking about what does that look like. Gold. If you're in it, you're happy. You're probably taking some gains. Maybe going to try to ride a little higher, but it's certainly looking like it's hitting some resistance at new highs. If you're asking if I'm in it, you know I do not trade precious metals. Hardly at all. I can't remember the last time. It's been at least 2 years since I've traded any. Maybe not. Maybe I did trade gold once last year with the group. And then I was like, that's why I don't trade it. Because I think I lost on it. That sounds right, doesn't it? To anyone who's here. I think I did take a gold trade. And I think I did lose on it. And I think I did bitch and moan about it. And say I'm not going to. It's like when you drink too much. You're like, I'm never going to drink again. And then meantime you do. At least when I was in college. Hood. Goldman. Sorry, I'm like talking and missing my good trades. That looks like, again, financials are certainly like leading the way to the downside right now and struggling to see any hint of buyers. HCHT up but in no man's land. Howmet. Same kind of a thing. Like they're just sort of meandering. It's not like we're like, hey, I'm looking to find a bullish trade. Can I find one thing that's sort of moving bullishly? And then that's not the idea. That's not the mindset we're looking for. IBIT. We were looking potentially at another trade on this bearishly, but yeah, not really finding anything in there. IBM now. ICE. Hitting some resistance. So if you took this trade, you'd probably be like booking some and tightening some stops. That's our mindset bullishly. Small caps. Oh, look at small caps. Trying to make a little run today? What's that all about? Anyone know? What the hell? A little surprised to see some weird, foolish hope of something from the Fed. I don't know. KMB still looks setting up. Coca-Cola still looks a little funky. Kroger still a bit funky. I don't know about those. They have some prospects. MasterCard looks like it's struggling to move very much off of these lows. Fourth day of buying and just can't really get much back, right? So do we think that this maybe is a $500 stock and it wants to move back down there? I'm starting to think that way. Meta, still in consolidation. Morgan Stanley possibly hitting some resistance for a roll. Microsoft is in consolidation. Netflix is interesting because it was like feeling like it was still in its consolidation here, and then all of a sudden it got up to there. Right? All of a sudden you're like, wait a second, that's not bad for the buyers. And now the sellers are coming in, and if these sellers don't go back below here, that would be a nice, what I would consider kind of a sneaky reversal where you're like, hey, sort of completed the pattern, but in a less traditional way. Remember, all we're looking for is signs of demand and supply shifting and, one side taking control. That's it. That's one looking at and just sort of holding on here. Still feeling a little bullish, holding the 50. NVIDIA, same kind of a thing with NVIDIA. This is actually a pretty good move, right? And now that this is coming down and it's struggling in here, we're thinking, well, wait a second. Is this possibly going to give me something that I could trade as this tries to come back into this range? Yeah, okay, I'm open to it. I'm gonna be water. I'm gonna be flexible and adjustable. There's gonna be some subtle things, including here. I think this is actually. You might think that's not that big of a move, though, Scott, isn't it? This went from 75 to 90. That's 15 points. That's a 20% move in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days. Went up 20% and now it's pulling back. So do I think that's enough for the buyers to convince me? If what? If the sellers fail. That's all we're ever looking for. Sellers to take control and then the buyers to fail. That's our bullish signal. Buyers take control. That's what we just saw. Right here. Buyers take control. And now if the sellers come, if the sellers push it all the way back to here, no, then they didn't fail. They won. They pushed it back. There's no trade. But if they push it to here and it stays in this little range that constitutes a higher low, whoop, whoop, then we're like, hey, okay. Be water, my friends. PM. Gave a signal now on a hiccup. I would actually trade this hiccup if it pulled back one more day and then turned. If the market was getting a bullish move and we kind of turned out of this, I would definitely trade this hiccup into a bullish move. Yes. Here's the cues. It's holding on to its opening gap, but not much more. We now have our opening range. So we opened, tested a little higher, drop, held. So if you're going by the shadows, there's the range. It's a pretty wide range. If you're going bodies, I typically go shadows, but some traders go bodies. or at least they watch the bodies of the range, then that's what it looks like. Okay. And here is the SPY on the same version. Let me erase the lines. And, you can see this one is trying to break the opening range. SPY is making a run at the opening range as we speak. We'll see if it can break it and hold or if it falls back in. Okay, let's go. How much time do I have? 7 minutes? Good. I feel pretty good about that. Roblox. So some of these are starting to feel like sneaky reversals to me, where maybe the consolidation did this. And I say sneaky because some of the time you're not going to get a great buy entry where you're like, that doesn't really feel like the buyers smashed it. But if they didn't smash it, but the sellers still fail, right? If they still fail to push it down to a lower low and then it turns, is that something that I would be willing to trade? Yeah. Yes, I would. I'm gonna look to take some of those things as we shift. And am I gonna trade like big risk levels and lots of trades? No. I'm gonna look for some of these things. Absolutely. As we start to figure out where this consolidation goes next. Reddit. Testing the new low. Rocket Labs. Kind of sideways. RTX. Still bullish. Nice catch if you got it. SE, maybe holding on a hiccup. We'll see what happens. There's the SPY. Toast. TPR. See, a lot of things just kind of like sitting on a precipice. That flag pattern, potentially. If we get some bad news and we break down, there's a lot of kinetic selling energy waiting, I think, still. That we would have another pretty heavy leg down, 4 or 5%, 6% pretty easily on the next move down if we break to the downside. I don't know that we have that same bullish energy yet. I think there's a lot of concern. I don't know. Whoever talked about Tesla getting upgraded and getting a bump, was that an old article? Am I missing something here? Does not look good to me at all. TSM doesn't look good at all either. I think I'm back at Palantir if I'm trading these. Some of you might like NVIDIA, either one of those, but I like those better than TSM. Twilio. Not a lot there, not a lot of buyers. Bullish dollar index is down. Visa looks flagging and wants to drop. Okay, today's VIX. Ooh, okay. Nothing yet. Right? Nothing yet. Do we think this is going to bounce and do this? Do we think that this is... Now, either way, if we think this thing starts to bounce, if it starts to take out these levels to the upside, definitely concerned that it's making a run back up here. Right now, we're kind of in no man's land on the VIX, as we would expect based on everything else that we've been seeing that's also in no man's land. So, yeah. If we were hoping for clarity, we don't have it yet. Last one is Walmart. Same kind of a place, just kind of sitting. What about CLS? CLS is down a bit today. Oh, no, back up a little today. So it's just kind of sitting where it was. If you like it, entry's valid. If you don't, you can see the stochastics is kind of crossing today. Just sitting right at its entry level. Yeah? Easy one to pick if you like it or not. Okay. Lastly, especially if you're new. Especially if you're... Which one of those do I want? This one? Especially if you're new. I want you working on your trading plan. We're working on section 1 this week, personal info. If you give me 1 hour a week, in 6 months, you will have the greatest trading plan you can imagine. 6 months. So is it like overnight oats? No. In 2 months, it'll be better than you can imagine. But that's your first pass. You're just defining everything. After the second pass, beautiful. You've refined it. After the third pass, it's just this glorious thing. You will increase your confidence as a trader if you do that. 6 months. I can tell you, when I used to do coaching, I would have people who would buy 18-month coaching packages. 18 months that they wanted coaching. So 6 months on a time frame of becoming a phenomenal trader. Hopefully you see that as worthy of your time. 1 hour each week working on these sections. You'll find the consistency is super, super helpful. I would love to see us, especially as we continue to grow as a community, carrying these conversations online where you're conversing with each other as well as with me, exchanging ideas, working on trading plans, etc. Phenomenal way to leverage the community and continue to expand it as a resource. So anyway, what's coming up next? The Fed is at noon for the announcement, but the press conference is 12:30. No, 2 and 2:30. That's my time. 2 Eastern, 2:30 Eastern is the 2 o'clock is the announcement. 2:30 is the press conference. That's likely what we're going to see starting to move the market based on what the verbiage says. Glenn will be here at 3 for the last hour. Tomorrow night we'll have our foundations Q&As. It's good to see everybody. Have a great rest of your day. I'd love to see some chats in Circle. I'll be looking for them. And as always, happy trading.
Recordings.